Hey guys, it's Zach here. So today I want to talk about one of the largest science projects, science experiments known to man. It's called CERN, and it's located in Geneva, Switzerland, way deep in the ground. And here's a picture of one of the detectors. This project is cost over $10 billion to build from the taxpayers, and I'm sure they have private investors as well. But you'll notice the size of this machine. So here's a guy, and here's one of the detectors, enormous. So like what they'll do in here, this is in the construction phase obviously, but when it's complete, it's already completed, this is just a picture. They collide protons in the center here, one going one way, one proton beam going one way and another proton beam going the other way, and they will collide them at enormous energies, and that will be a scattering process, and that will radiate particles outward, and they will detect the trajectories and the energies, and thus get the masses and stuff like that. So they can find, basically, if you send protons in and collide them, what will come out. And they travel these protons. Here's another detector. Another detector. Looks like this one was when it was almost completed. They will send these protons. Here's the tunnel. Here's where the protons actually travel along inside this tube. And so what they'll do is send protons this way in the tube, and protons traveling this way in the tube, and then they will collide it in one of these huge detectors. And this tube actually has a circumference of around 17 miles. And what they're doing is, how they make it travel in a circle, is they have magnets, actually superconducting magnets. And it's just a physical fact that if you have a electrically charged particle traveling in a magnetic field, it will curve. So they worked out all the math, and they have a certain strength magnetic field pointing down or up, and then they have the protons traveling in this way with a certain velocity, so it'll travel on a circular path, and that's how they control the trajectory to make it actually travel along this circular path. Okay, so that's just, these protons are traveling near the speed of light. Actually, like 99.99999% the speed of light, at least. But they actually don't travel faster than the speed of light, because it's just impossible to send a proton faster than the speed of light by a physics experiment. Okay, so this requires enormous energy, like TeV range. So it's just an astonishing experiment, and it's enormous energies. And this is their logo, CERN. And so this is supposed to symbolize, supposedly, you have the loop, right, where the protons travel around, like they travel this way, and collide at some detector. But it should be noted that if you look at this upside down, you will see that it actually contains 3 6s in it. So here's a 6, here's a 6, and here's a 6. Okay, so it does contain 3 6s, and you'll notice that this is also like a 6, but it's backwards, and this is also like a 6, and it's backwards. So it's different orientation. These 3 6s are in orientation with each other, just different angles. It should be noted that the www, World Wide Web, was created here at CERN, there at CERN. In the 1980s, research at CERN, Geneva, there was a guy, and he created the World Wide Web. So that's not common knowledge usually. It just takes a little bit of research. But in physics and computer science, it's common knowledge. So it's kind of interesting to note that with all this talk about artificial intelligence and the singularity, and how an artificial intelligent machine could access the World Wide Web and process it a lot faster than any human. So that would give them a lot of, artificial intelligence, considering there's a lot of intelligence on the web. And if you, in ancient Hebrew, W, the symbol in the Hebrew letter, Vav, was pronounced W in ancient Hebrew. And in ancient Hebrew, every letter has a corresponding numeric value. And Vav, its value is 6. So if you have WWW, it gives you 666 in sequence. Pretty interesting fact. And if you go to Chrome logo, Google and all their power and how they have so much power on the internet, you will see that this logo actually has 3 6s. 1, 2, 3. Okay? I'm not trying to demonize anybody or anything, but I just wanted to just throw out these. They might be coincidences, but I don't know. They're just kind of interesting. So you'll see this is a 6, this is a 6, this is a 6, and they all coincide in one common circular loop, just like this logo, all in one loop. Okay. So this is Shiva, a statue that the Indian government gave to CERN, and she is known as the King of Dancers. And it's just a fact that there was a few CERN scientists, like this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy, and they stood in front of Shiva, and there's a girl laying here, and they are actually performing a mock human sacrifice on this person. Pretty creepy stuff. A lot of people came out and they were saying oh, it was just a joke, blah, blah, blah. I mean, whatever. I don't believe that at all. This guy literally in the video, go check it out if you haven't seen it. He literally acts like he stabs her. And you notice that she's dressed in white and they're dressed in black. Okay. This looks very similar to Bohemian Grove, where a bunch of government deep state members travel for 2 weeks during the summer in California, and they stand around here and worship this owl that's 30 feet tall and burn a human effigy and do a mock human sacrifice. It's pretty creepy. If you haven't watched this movie, or this isn't the movie, this is a picture taken out of one of their books that got into the public. You can go check out Alex Jones' movie on it. He has a film where he actually snuck in, got on videotape their mock human sacrifice. It's called The Cremation of Care. Very creepy stuff. A lot of presidents have been to the Bohemian Grove, including Bush Sr. and Jr. Here is a dance opera film inside CERN, the Large Hadron Collider. This is creepy. So, this movie was called Symmetry. In physics, there's a lot of symmetries. For example, in quantum field theory, which is a lot of the physics, mathematical theory they use for doing this kind of particle physics, high energy particle physics, it's so called. It's called quantum field theory. Right? Whoops. It's called quantum field theory. And there is a symmetry that's very famous. It's called the CPT theorem. It's where there's a symmetry if you take the C stands for charge, the P stands for parity, and T stands for time, that if you reverse the charge, you reverse the position in space, and you reverse the direction of time. Oh, my coffee just got warm. I mean cold, lukewarm. Bummer. Anyways, so it's a famous theory in quantum field theory that if you take the charge of the particle, like let's say you take a proton and you turn it to a negative charge, and you take that proton's position and you place it at the negative position, you take the x vector and turn it into negative x vector. And then you take time and you take it to minus time. There's a symmetry that leaves the physics unchanged. So that's why it's possible to describe a proton traveling forward in time as a anti-proton traveling backwards in time. So there is a temporal symmetry. This is just absolutely creepy to me that they did this dance and this opera thing. I don't even want to watch it, but you can go check it. I mean, I watched a little clip of it, but like the trailer, it is just creepy. Once again, they have this person that's dressed in white, and then they have this dark dressed person. I mean, it's pretty clear what they're doing here. This might represent like Lucifer, and this might represent light, and Lucifer doing, trying to mess with the light. And you'll see this like circle here. It's just very creepy because this circle has a lot of satanic representation to where they will have, it's kind of creepy, but if you haven't heard about Aleister Crowley, he was a Satanist who studied magic, and he was all about sacrificing, I don't even want to talk about it, but basically this circle is what demons will like to use. So they believe that this circle will radiate a shield vertical all the way around it, making it very difficult for their spirits to escape the circle. So it's just absolutely creepy stuff here. Another thing is, I did a Mandela effect video. The Mandela effect has happened. If you have any doubts, you can go check out one of my Mandela effect video. Well, my only Mandela effect video, and it's pretty clear. A lot of people are experiencing it, and I encourage you to go into it. If you don't believe it, go into it with an open mind and check it out. But this is a scientist at CERN. He's a pretty popular physicist. And what he has here, this is an equation on his shirt. And this is called the Lagrangian density for the standard model. That's not very important, but I've seen this guy give a talk on the internet, and he's pretty popular in the science community, and he really knows his physics. But what's kind of interesting is this is a picture taken from a video they had at CERN, where there's, and you'll notice that there, right here it says bond number 1, Mandela, and there's a puzzle thing in the back. I think that's a puzzle thing. I don't know, I was watching, no, maybe it might not be. But I was watching Evan Powers, a YouTuber, and he was saying that is a puzzle. But I can't really tell in this picture, but it doesn't really matter. So, look, this says bond number 1 and Mandela, right? So who was the first bond? Nelson, Mandela, right here. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's just a scientific fact, now that they discovered gravitational waves, that if you do anything, like let's say I take my finger and I move it through space, that will radiate gravitational waves at the speed of light. But that's just a small effect in space-time. It distorts space-time. Like, for example, a sun. It has a gravitational field around it, and the Earth travels around the sun, right? Well, the sun is a mass, and it's located in a certain region of space. And that mass located in that region of space carries an energy density, right? You know, Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared. E is the energy, m is the mass, c is the speed of light. So you could just drop the speed of light. Energy and mass are the same thing in physics. So that energy of the sun located in a region of space is called an energy density. And Einstein's theory of gravity says that energy density curves space and time around it, right? So this curvature of space and time, or warping space and time, they sometimes say, is the illusion of gravity. So when you have particles traveling, a beam of protons traveling this way, right? And you have a proton or beams traveling this way, and they collide in a certain region, right? That is a lot of energy in a region of space. So that definitely does affect the space and time around it. It's just basic physics. Conceptually. I mean, the actual math is very difficult, but so here's one of Einstein's this is a consequence of one of Einstein's field equations. So basically, this is called the Schwarzschild metric, and this is a line element in space-time. I know this is complicated, but I just want to say something very simple. You will see right here, right? This is the famous whole idea of black holes. It's called the Schwarzschild metric. Just check it out. So we all know that when you take 1 divided by 0, it's infinite, right? So if you take this and put it to equal to 0, right? Which means that this thing, this times the energy, or the mass, equals mc squared. And this is just the speed of light squared again. So this is a constant, this is a constant, this is a constant, right? You can just basically ignore those. This is an energy of the, and this is the radius. So if you solve this equation, set this bottom equal to 0, the so-called denominator, set it equal to 0, right? You get an equation for the radius of the event horizon in a black hole. It's called the Schwarzschild radius. I know looks pretty complicated, but what I'm trying to say is if you can get a certain energy, if you can get energy density confined in such a region of space that is small enough, you can literally create a black hole, right? Okay, so if they get enough energy located in such a small region where they collide these particles, and I think they have, the theory is that they have a long way to go, right? They need a lot more energy, but we don't really know the energies they're using there. It's just theoretical physics that indeed, if they can collide these particles at enough energy and such a small enough region of space, they can create a black hole. Here's a artist's illustration of interpretation. It's just an artist's expression of what they believe a black hole would look like. So this would be the radius, right? From the center to here, that's the Schwarzschild radius. And this is called, where you don't see any light coming out, that's called the event horizon. And basically what that is the point of no return. Like if light falls into that, no light will be radiated out. We're ignoring all the Hawking radiation and stuff, so this is just basic black hole physics. So around here, where the light would enter, or any matter, any people, or Earth, if our Earth entered past that point, there's no return. So that's the idea of a black hole. Light can't be radiated out of it, so it's black. Ignoring, the whole difficult Hawking radiation stuff. I don't even want to get into that. Okay, so I want to finish this video on this. I'm a Christian, and this is Revelation 9. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit, and he opened the bottomless pit. And there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So, maybe a black hole could a black hole be a bottomless pit? At CERN, they are penetrating energies that have never been experienced by man. So, you don't even know, like this equation is a theory, right? What if this equation is not perfect? What if they're getting into, they're exploring things they definitely are exploring things that are not known. And there's no real regulation of what they're doing there. So is CERN tapping into the bottomless pit?